Next year. Wait until next year. This had to be the thought around most of the Boston Celtics fans and media alike when it came to 2017-2018 Boston Celtics and their chances in the upcoming playoffs. After all, what could you really expect from a team that had just lost not only its all-star forward in Gordon Hayward, but its superstar point guard in Kyrie Irving? Meaning that it would be led by a team made up of mainly guys within their first 3 to 4 seasons in the league. Next year. Wait until next year. Well, for the Boston Celtics, these gentlemen had other plans. Off of a 2016-2017 campaign which seen the Boston Celtics capture the first overall seed in the Eastern Conference, led by Isaiah Thomas in his near 30-point per game season, finishing in the top 3 of the MVP voting. This season would take the Celtics all the way to the ECF, where unfortunately, like many other teams throughout this run, they would meet LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers, ending their incredible season in 5 games. I would also like to mention and say rest in peace to Isaiah Thomas's sister. He unfortunately lost his sister in the second round of the playoffs against the Washington Wizards, in which he came back and gave one of the most memorable performances we've ever seen. We love and miss you, IT. Thank you. Even though the season did come to an unfortunate end, all was not lost. Heading into that 2017 offseason, first domino to fall would be Gordon Hayward. Gordon Hayward had previously played for the Utah Jazz, but prior to that was a collegiate star at Butler, where it just so happens that the current Boston Celtics coach, Brad Stevens, was the coach at that time. Gordon Hayward had become an all-star in Utah and a team that actually would make it to the second round of the Western Conference playoffs. Gordon Hayward decided to forego a max contract with the Utah Jazz to join back up with his old college coach Brad Stevens in Boston, as the Celtics offered him a 4-year max contract. In addition to that, Danny Ainge would orchestrate a massive blockbuster trade when a disgruntled Kyrie Irving requested a trade from the Cleveland Cavaliers. Unfortunately, that would include hometown hero or current hero Isaiah Thomas to be included, along with Jay Crowder and Ante Zizic. In return, Boston would get its superstar point guard Kyrie Irving. And if this wasn't enough, through Danny Ainge's genius with the Brooklyn Nets trade of old, the Boston Celtics were awarded the #1 overall pick. So you're looking at a situation where you have the #1 overall seed getting the #1 overall pick. Imagine last year Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers being awarded the #1 overall draft pick. Here's Trevor Lawrence. Take your successor. Doesn't sound right, does it? But what is even crazier is another one of Danny Ainge's masterful moves. Instead of actually taking and using the #1 overall pick, he flipped it to #3, which would in turn become Duke forward Jason Tatum. At the time, this was a mixed reaction move, as Markelle Fultz was the heavy favorite to be taken with #1 overall, and of course Lonzo Ball going overall 2 to the Los Angeles Lakers. However, many believe that if Boston would have kept this pick, #1 being it would have been Jason Tatum regardless. Going into the 2017-2018 season, you would be looking at a team that was assembled of Kyrie Irving, Gordon Hayward, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Al Horford, Terry Rozier, Marcus Smart, Marcus Morris, Aaron Baines, among others. Momentum was definitely high for the Boston Celtics heading into this campaign. Excellent, a team that had been assembled. Brad Stevens heading into his 5th season and had already proven that he could take a team to the ECF with lesser talent at that, so to speak. But as life continues to teach us, when things seem too good to be true, they usually are. 5 minutes into the season, Gordon Hayward would suffer an injury on an alley-oop from Kyrie Irving, and what can be described as only, in my opinion, one of the most gruesome injuries I have ever seen in my 30 years. It is among the likes of a Paul George, Dak Prescott, the young man from Louisville in the tournament, leg break. I mean, we're talking those type of injuries. Just career-ending, career-changing, the type of injury that has still taken Gordon 2.5 years just to get back to 85% of what he was. The Celtics would rally and have an absolute incredible run and start to the season regardless, despite this tragedy to Gordon. Led by Kyrie Irving in what was a sensational first year with the Boston Celtics, they were able to stay right up at the top of the East. However, with just mere months remaining before the playoffs would start, in late March, it was announced that Kyrie Irving would be missing the remainder of the season due to a knee injury. So heading into the 2018 playoffs, the Boston Celtics would be without both of their star players. Through all of Danny Ainge's brilliant moves with the Brooklyn Nets trade and the Kyrie Irving trade and the signing of guys like Al Horford and Gordon Hayward, one of the most important things a general manager can do was slowly going under the radar. And despite all of the bad luck that had befallen the Boston Celtics throughout the 2017-2018 season, 4 consecutive draft picks among some other players were about to put the world on notice. Beginning in 2014, Danny Ainge selected a gentleman by the name of Marcus Smart, 6th overall. He would follow that up by drafting Terry Rozier in 2015, 16th overall. Back-to-back years of number 3 overall picks would see in 2016 Jaylen Brown be selected out of Cal, followed finally by Jason Tatum being selected out of Duke. Again, all 4 of these were in a row. And these 4 gentlemen would be announcing to the world that they had arrived. The Boston Celtics would have a strong finish to the 2017-2018 campaign, securing the 2nd overall seed, which in normal years would be a blessing. However, this year, the award was Giannis and the 7th-seeded Milwaukee Bucks. This series was an absolute back-and-forth war, seeing Giannis doing what Giannis has always done best, averaging nearly 26 points, 10 rebounds, 6+ assists, with Chris Middleton right behind him, also averaging 25 points a game. On the Celtics side, you had Al Horford, Terry Rozier, and Jaylen Brown, all averaging near 18 points a game, with Jason Tatum right behind them, averaging 15 points per game. Jaylen Brown actually seen multiple 30-point game performances throughout this series. This series, as I stated, was a war, only seeing home court wins and needed all 7 games to decide the winner. Game 7 itself was secured through a near 26-point triple-double from Terry Rozier and a 26-point performance from Al Horford. This would be the series where the legend of Scary Terry and Drew Bledsoe, the origins of the Drew Bledsoe story, I should say, would happen. Terry Rozier, when asked about Eric Bledsoe post-game, whether it was an accident or not, only Terry knows, referred to Eric Bledsoe as Drew Bledsoe, a former New England Patriots quarterback. In fact, he was the quarterback that Tom Brady took over for when Tom Brady started his historic run. Eric Bledsoe obviously didn't take too kindly to this, because when asked in a follow-up post-game about Terry, he said, "Who?" When the reporter clarified, stating Terry Rozier, Eric Bledsoe stated, and I quote, minus the curse word, "I don't even know who the F that is," end quote. Unfortunately for Eric, Terry Bledsoe Terry Rozier would quickly remind him with a nasty, hard crossover step-back three that left Drew Bledsoe frozen, stuck in place as Terry Rozier danced, celebrating down the other court while the crowd erupted. And as to put a little bit of icing on the cake, Terry would then wear a Drew Bledsoe jersey to the start of the next series, which would be against the Philadelphia 76ers. Heading into round 2, the Philadelphia 76ers, Eastern Conference rivals, would be waiting for them, led by Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. This series would go 5 games and was a complete domination for the Boston Celtics throughout. Regardless, in respect to Joel Embiid still averaging 24 points, 14 rebounds, and 4 assists, and Ben Simmons averaging 15 points, 8 rebounds, and near 7 assists. But this would be the series where Jason Tatum put the world on notice, averaging nearly 25 points per game throughout. He would come out in Game 1 having 28, followed by 21, 24, 20, and 25 points in the Game 5 closing win. Terry Rozier averaged nearly 19, 7, and 4 throughout, with both Al Horford and Jaylen Brown getting right around 15 points per game throughout. This would be the series best known for Marcus Morris in Game 4, holding up the taunting / trolling, call it what you want, 3-0 to Embiid when Darth Vader masked Embiid was, for whatever reason, talking shit to Marcus Morris even though he was down 3-0. The Boston Celtics were soaring. They were rolling right now. Momentum was high. And this team was heading to the Eastern Conference Finals, where LeBron James and a trip to the finals would be waiting. The 2018 Eastern Conference Finals between the Boston Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers would be an absolute slugfest, similar to the Round 1 series against the Bucks, requiring all 7 games. This series could probably be summed up in one word: LeBron. LeBron did what LeBron does, and that is show his greatness when it is most needed. He averaged 34 points and nearly 9 boards and 9 assists throughout the entirety of this series. But there was a point when the Cleveland Cavaliers were actually down 3-2 with the series heading back to Boston, and the Celtics only needing 1 win to head to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2010. This series for the Celtics would be led by second-year man Jaylen Brown and his 19 points a game, closely followed by Jason Tatum averaging 18 points a game. And I would say the highlights of this would be Jason Tatum and his dunk on LeBron James, and the Marcus Morris, and the overall reaction was just incredible. Terry Rozier and Al Horford both averaging 13 points a game throughout to contribute. But the issue with this series was shooting. For example, Terry Rozier in the first round shot 38% from 3. And the second round against the Philadelphia 76ers, he shot nearly 42% from 3. And in this series against the Cavs, he shot 25% from 3. And that was just not Terry. That was the majority of this team. A lot of their hot start and performances started to dwindle. Heading into Game 6, LeBron James would put on a 46-point performance to force a Game 7 back in Cleveland, and followed that up with a near 35-point, 15-rebound, 9-assist triple-double in the Game 7 win, 79-87, advancing to the finals where they would be swept by Golden State and ending the Boston Celtics' incredible 2018 playoff run. Though the season was over, and for the second consecutive year, they were bounced out in the ECF, as bright as things were heading into the 2017-18 season, they were even brighter heading into the 18-19 season. I mean, really think about it. You had just gone to the ECF led by a rookie in Jason Tatum, a sophomore second year in Jaylen Brown, your third year Terry Rozier, Marcus Smart, Marcus Morris, and Al Horford. And by the way, you are about to add back a champion, perennial all-star, superstar Kyrie Irving and all-star Gordon Hayward. The future was as bright as it has ever been. And things seem just destined to have the Celtics end up in not only the championship, but winning it. Like, they were actually favorited going into this season. You'll have to excuse me because that is an entire different video that requires a whole separate breakdown to explain the 2018-2019 tragedy, because that, in my opinion, is one of the greatest teams that to never have done it. They should be included in that. You're talking about, I mean, I just named that roster off to you. It is insane. And especially when you look at how they imploded and just, you know, the Kyrie Irving, you know, two fingers to Kevin Durant, and Marcus Morris pushing Jaylen Brown on the sideline, and Terry Rozier and his smear campaign, and, you know, Gordon Hayward and coming back from his injury. It was a lot. You know, multiple guys on, you know, final years of extension. So that offseason was one of the last great times it was, you know, to be a Celtics fan, because like I said, from that IT run up until that point, it was just magical. We still had the potential Anthony Davis trade on the horizon. It just seemed like it was destined for him to be traded to pair up with Kyrie Irving, potentially maybe Gordon Hayward, to form a big three. I guarantee Kyrie doesn't leave if that's the case. It just seemed like, I mean, everything Danny Ainge had done, this team he had assembled, it just seemed like there was not a wrong move made. And unfortunately, we all know how that turned out. Looking at every one of the players I named today, Kyrie Irving is obviously still a superstar, max contract player with the Brooklyn Nets. Heading into his third year, he will actually be making his season debut here shortly. Still a superstar, averaging nearly 27 points, was a 40, 50, 90 guy. Gordon Hayward just agreed to a $30 million extension. No, excuse me, not an extension. He actually left the Boston Celtics to sign a $30 million contract with the Charlotte Hornets. He is currently playing with them right now. I believe he's averaging around 18 points a game. It has been very solid for that young team. They're a very, very exciting unit. And speaking of Charlotte, Terry Rozier is also with the Hornets. Terry Rozier has actually been there 3 seasons. He's pretty much averaged right around 19 points, 4 and 4 throughout. And he actually recently signed a 4-year, $97 million extension in early 2021. Marcus Morris is with the Los Angeles Clippers. He's been there the past 3 seasons, averaging right around 13, 5, and 2. And he actually signed a 4-year, $64 million extension back in 2020. The remainder of the guys, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, Marcus Smart, are all still with the Boston Celtics. Jason Tatum has obviously turned into a, you know, star player, perennial all-star, currently averaging right around 26 points, 8.5 rebounds, nearly 4 assists. You got Jaylen Brown making his first all-star appearance last year. He's a part of the big duo with Tatum in the Boston Celtics currently, averaging right around 23, 24 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. Jason Tatum actually is on the first year of his max extension, and Jaylen Brown actually signed, I believe, a 4-year, $115 million extension in late 2019, which actually was a controversial signing at the time, but, you know, looking at it now is one of the better contracts in the NBA because he's a max level player and is only making like $25 million a season. You've got Marcus Smart, who is currently the longest tenured Celtics. He actually just signed a 4-year, $77 million extension this offseason. He's actually averaging right now 11 points, nearly 6 assists, and 4 rebounds with the Boston Celtics as their point guard. And finally, you've got Al Horford, who actually returned to the Boston Celtics this season after a 2-year absence, which seen him go to both Philadelphia and Oklahoma City before being traded back to Boston in the Kemba Walker deal. After that 2-year absence, right now in his 15th season, he's averaging 12 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists for Boston, and looks like he's never left. He's been excellent this year. If you have made it to this point in the video, I just wanted to say thank you so much for your time. I really, really hope you enjoyed. This is going to be something new, a new series, so to speak, that I actually will be implementing and doing moving forward to start the 2022 year. Me and Bobby had a conversation that really changed my entire perspective. If I was to make a video, highlighting the Boston Celtics' recent wins, Jaylen Brown's 50-point performance against the Magic, and the win over Phoenix to close out the 2021 year, would you really care about that a month from now? So it's about making timeless videos. And when I heard that, a light bulb went off. You know what I mean? So to me, I kind of want to start looking and highlighting, the moments, the incredible runs, the great years, whatever it is, the stories. And that's to me why I wanted to do the 2017-18 season, that 2018 playoff run. Tatum's rookie year with Irving and Hayward both being down for the season. All hope seemed lost. And you just got this gritty group of young guys that are hungry, and they just go out there and have so much swag and just this carefree together basketball. It was just so beautiful. And to me, it was just like the last time we were on top of the world as Celtics fans before, it started to slowly unravel. But again, if you made it to this point, thank you so much for your time. Jags to Riches, James Peters. I will be doing a follow-up that will go into the 2018-2019 season and just talk about that disaster. Some other things that you can look forward to is I will be taking individual players and, for example, Terry Rozier, and maybe highlighting some of his time with the Celtics, why it went wrong. Same with Kyrie Irving. Just some different ventures and ideas that I've actually been having, guys, on ways to expand the channel and to make videos that will last, more than just this current season. I want you to be able to watch this next year. And again, to all the new subscribers, to everyone that's been on this road and this journey with me, thank you so much. I've recently kind of started to get things to click when it comes to Adobe Pro, so you'll start seeing some better quality videos if you haven't already. To me, this is the first video where I actually, not the majority of all my videos is 100% just me flowing right off the top of the head, not written. This was the first video where I actually wrote out sections, did voice recording for sections, if you could really see the amount of research and paperwork, it was insane. I've been working on this video hard for quite a while now and really wanted to try to utilize all my skills and just kind of see how it turned out. So again, I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you so much for your time. Jags to Riches, James Peters. I hope you have the most incredible start to your 2022, guys. Thank you.